Sometimes the truth about soulmates is far more complicated than the dreamy stories we grow up hearing. People imagine that when you finally meet your soulmate, the past disappears, every old memory fades, and the only thing that exists is the perfect connection between two hearts. But reality is rarely that simple. Sometimes your soulmate still thinks about someone they loved before you. And that truth is something almost nobody talks about openly, because it feels uncomfortable, confusing, and even painful to admit. When you love someone deeply, you want to believe that their heart is completely yours. You want to imagine that you are the first person who ever touched their soul in a meaningful way. But human hearts do not work like blank pages waiting for a new story. They are more like books already filled with chapters, some beautiful, some painful, some unfinished. And when two people meet who feel like soulmates, they are not starting with empty histories. They are meeting with everything they have already lived through. Your soulmate may love you in a way that feels deep, pure, and undeniable. They may feel a connection with you that they have never felt with anyone else. Yet somewhere in their memories, there may still be a person who once meant everything to them. That person might be an ex, someone they once dreamed about building a life with. Someone who shaped the way they understand love, heartbreak, trust, and loss. And here is the difficult part that people rarely say out loud: thinking about an ex does not automatically mean the love they feel for you is fake. Memories do not disappear just because life moves forward. People do not wake up one day and magically forget the person who once held their heart. Love leaves traces inside us. It leaves echoes in certain songs, certain places, certain seasons of life. Sometimes it leaves lessons that become part of who we are. Your soulmate might remember how their ex laughed. They might remember the promises they once made. They might even wonder sometimes what life would have been like if things had worked out differently. These thoughts can come quietly, like distant echoes of another time. Not because they want to go back, but because the past has a way of visiting us when we least expect it. This can be painful to accept. When you imagine your soulmate thinking about someone else, it can make you feel like you are competing with a ghost from their past. It can make you question whether you are truly enough for them. You may wonder if a part of their heart still belongs to someone who is no longer in their life. But the deeper truth about love is that hearts are not limited spaces where only one person can exist at a time. People carry memories of many loves throughout their lives. Some of those loves were intense but temporary. Some were beautiful but unfinished. Some ended in ways that left emotional scars that take years to heal. Those experiences do not always disappear when a new love arrives. Instead, they become part of the emotional landscape that shapes how someone loves you. Sometimes the reason your soulmate loves you so deeply is because of what they went through with someone before you. Maybe their past relationship taught them what they truly need in a partner. Maybe it showed them what they cannot tolerate anymore. Maybe it forced them to grow into a version of themselves that was finally ready to meet you. In that sense, the ex they still remember is not necessarily a rival to your love. Sometimes that past relationship was simply a chapter that prepared them for the connection they now share with you. Still, this does not erase the emotional complexity of knowing your soulmate carries memories of another love. There are moments when it can hurt. Moments when you wish you could erase every person who came before you so that your story with them would be the only one that exists. But love is rarely about erasing the past. Real love is about accepting the whole person in front of you, including the experiences that shaped them. The truth is, your soulmate may sometimes think about their ex, but that does not mean they want to return to that relationship. Often those thoughts are not about longing. They are about reflection. People revisit the past in their minds for many reasons. Sometimes it is to understand what went wrong. Sometimes it is to make peace with unresolved feelings. Sometimes it is simply because certain memories never fully disappear. And sometimes, thinking about an ex reminds them how far they have come. They may remember how much they once loved that person, and realize that the love they feel for you is different, calmer, deeper, more mature. The kind of love that is not built on fantasy, but on understanding. Your presence in their life might represent something they never had before: safety, emotional honesty, and a connection that feels real instead of fragile. Ironically, it is often the pain of past relationships that makes people appreciate a soulmate when they finally find them. But there is another side to this truth that can be even harder to face. Sometimes your soulmate does not talk about their ex because they are afraid of hurting you. They know that hearing about someone from their past might make you feel insecure, even if they have no intention of going back to that person. So they keep those memories quiet, tucked away in private corners of their mind. This silence can create misunderstandings. You might sense that there are parts of their past they do not fully share, and your imagination fills the gaps with fear. But not every hidden memory is a secret betrayal. Sometimes it is simply a private emotional process that people go through as they grow. The real question is not whether your soulmate ever thinks about their ex. The real question is where their heart chooses to stay now. Because thinking about someone and wanting to build a life with someone are two completely different things. A person can remember a past love and still choose you every single day. They can acknowledge that someone once mattered deeply to them, while also knowing that the relationship they truly want is the one they have with you. This is one of the most mature forms of love, when someone understands their past but does not live in it. And if you look closely, you might realize something surprising: you probably carry your own emotional memories too. Even if you do not think about past relationships often, there may be moments when certain memories appear unexpectedly. Maybe a place reminds you of someone you once knew. Maybe a song takes you back to a different version of yourself. These moments do not define your present love. They are simply fragments of the person you used to be. The same is true for your soulmate. Their past does not erase the depth of what they feel for you. In many ways, it is part of the journey that allowed your paths to cross. The truth that nobody talks about is that soulmates are not people who arrive in our lives with untouched hearts. They are people whose hearts have been shaped by everything they experienced before meeting us. And sometimes that includes someone they once loved deeply. But what matters most is not the memories they carry. What matters is the choice they make now, the choice to stand beside you, to grow with you, and to build a future that is not defined by the past. Because at the end of the day, love is not about being the only person someone has ever cared about. It is about being the person they choose to keep loving, even after everything they have been through, and yet there is another layer to this truth that makes it even more human and even more difficult to accept. Sometimes when your soulmate remembers their ex, the memory is not really about that person anymore. It is about who they were during that time of their life. People often look back at past relationships not because they miss the person, but because those relationships hold pieces of their younger self. They remember the version of themselves who believed in certain dreams, who loved without fear, who had not yet been shaped by disappointment. When they think about their ex, sometimes they are actually remembering a version of themselves that no longer exists. Life changes people. Experiences reshape their expectations and their understanding of love. The person your soulmate used to be when they were with their ex is not the same person who stands beside you now. And in many ways, that transformation is the reason your connection with them feels so deep. The truth is that love matures through experience. A person who has never faced heartbreak often loves in a very different way compared to someone who has already seen what it feels like to lose someone they thought they would spend their life with. When someone goes through a deep breakup, it changes how they approach love forever. They become more careful with their heart. They become more aware of how fragile relationships can be. They learn that promises alone are not enough to sustain a bond between two people. So when your soulmate enters a new relationship with you, they do not arrive as the same person they were with their ex. They arrive wiser, sometimes more cautious, sometimes more grateful for the small moments that keep a relationship alive. This can create an interesting emotional contrast. Their past relationship may have been intense, dramatic, and filled with powerful emotions. But what they feel with you might be calmer, steadier, and more real. Many people confuse intensity with depth. They think the strongest love must be the one filled with constant passion and emotional highs and lows. But in reality, the deepest love is often the one that feels peaceful. It is the one where two people do not have to prove their devotion every day through dramatic gestures. Instead, they simply exist together with trust and understanding. If your soulmate sometimes remembers their ex, it does not necessarily mean that the past relationship was better than what they have with you. In fact, many people remember past relationships precisely because those relationships taught them painful lessons. Those memories become reminders of mistakes they never want to repeat again. Your soulmate may remember how their ex misunderstood them, how communication slowly broke down, how small problems slowly grew into impossible walls between them. These memories are not romantic fantasies. They are emotional markers that remind them why that chapter of their life ended. And because of those memories, they might value what they have with you even more. They might appreciate the way you listen when they speak. They might notice the patience you showed during difficult moments. They might quietly realize that the connection they share with you is healthier than anything they experienced before. But here is another truth that people rarely admit. Sometimes the reason it hurts to know your soulmate remembers their ex is not actually about them. Sometimes it reflects our own fear of being compared. Humans naturally want to feel special in the eyes of the person they love. We want to believe that our presence in their life is unique and irreplaceable. The idea that someone before us once held a similar place in their heart can feel threatening. It can make us question our value in their life. We start wondering whether they loved their ex more passionately, whether they once felt emotions with that person that they will never feel again. These questions can create silent insecurity inside a relationship if they are not understood properly. But the reality is that love is not something that can be measured like numbers on a scale. One relationship cannot simply be ranked above another in a neat emotional hierarchy. Different relationships teach people different things. Some relationships teach excitement. Some teach patience. Some teach pain. Some teach growth. And sometimes the love that lasts the longest is not the one that started with the strongest spark. It is the one that slowly builds trust over time. Your soulmate's past relationship might have been intense but unstable. It might have felt magical at first but slowly collapsed under the weight of misunderstandings and incompatible dreams. Meanwhile, the love they share with you might grow quietly day by day, becoming stronger not through dramatic passion but through consistent care. The difference between these two kinds of love is something many people only understand after experiencing both. So when your soulmate occasionally thinks about their ex, it might simply be their mind revisiting a lesson from the past. A reminder of who they used to be and what they learned about love. It does not mean they are trapped in that past. It does not mean their heart is divided between two people. In fact, the very fact that they stayed with you instead of returning to their ex often says more than any words ever could. Because memories can exist without desire. A person can remember someone from their past without wanting that person back in their life. Memories are part of being human. They are not contracts binding someone to their past forever. The real measure of love is not whether someone has memories of another relationship. The real measure is where they invest their time, their energy, and their emotional presence today. If your soulmate shows up for you in the present, supports you during difficult moments, celebrates your happiness, and continues choosing to build a future with you, then their occasional memories of the past do not threaten the reality of your connection. In fact, accepting this truth can make a relationship stronger. Because when two people understand that both of them come from complex emotional histories, they can approach love with greater compassion. Instead of that the past disappear, they allow each other to grow beyond it. Instead of competing with ghosts of old relationships, they focus on nurturing the bond that exists now. And over time, something beautiful happens. The memories that once belonged to someone else slowly lose their emotional power. Not because they are erased, but because new experiences begin to take their place. The laughter you share together becomes the memory that stays with them the longest. The quiet conversations late at night become the moments they replay in their mind. The way you stood beside them during their hardest days becomes the story their heart remembers most clearly. Eventually, the past becomes just that, the past. A chapter that shaped them but no longer defines the direction of their life. What remains is the present connection they are building with you. And that is the part of the story that truly matters. But there is an even deeper truth hidden beneath all of this, a truth so raw that many people avoid facing it because it forces them to rethink everything they believed about soulmates. Sometimes the reason your soulmate still remembers their ex is because that relationship once carried a dream that never fully finished. Not every love story ends with clear closure. Some relationships end suddenly, some collapse under circumstances neither person expected, and some slowly fade without either person truly understanding why. When a relationship ends without clear answers, the mind has a strange habit of revisiting it again and again, searching for meaning in moments that can never be fully explained. Your soulmate might not miss their ex as a person, but they might still remember the dreams that once existed between them. The plans they once imagined. The future they once believed would happen. Human beings are not just emotional creatures, they are dream builders. When people fall in love, they do not only fall in love with the person in front of them. They fall in love with the future they imagine together. They imagine growing old together, building a life together, overcoming struggles together. When that future disappears, it leaves behind something deeper than heartbreak. It leaves behind a quiet sense of unfinished possibility. And sometimes when your soulmate thinks about their ex, what they are really remembering is that lost possibility. Not because they want to return to it, but because the human mind naturally wonders about the paths life did not take. Everyone does this in some way. People sometimes think about careers they never pursued, cities they never moved to, opportunities they never accepted. Love works the same way. It creates emotional crossroads in life, and sometimes the mind simply wonders what would have happened if a different decision had been made. But wondering is not the same as wanting. Curiosity about the past is not the same as regret about the present. Your soulmate may occasionally revisit those memories in quiet moments, but when they return to reality, they still stand beside you. They still choose you. And choice is one of the most powerful forms of love that exists. Feelings can be unpredictable. Emotions can rise and fall with time. But the decision to stay with someone, to build a life with them despite all the complicated emotions that come with being human, is something much deeper than fleeting passion. This is something many people misunderstand about soulmates. They imagine that a soulmate connection means there will never be confusion, never be emotional complexity, never be lingering memories from the past. But real soulmate connections often exist precisely because two people understand each other's emotional complexity. Your soulmate might carry memories of someone who once mattered to them. And you might carry memories of your own past experiences as well. But instead of those memories destroying the connection between you, they can actually create a deeper level of empathy. Because both of you understand that love is not something that happens in a perfect vacuum. Love happens between two people who have lived entire lives before meeting each other. Two people who have experienced joy, mistakes, heartbreak, growth, and transformation. And sometimes the reason a soulmate connection feels so powerful is because both people arrive at the relationship with hearts that have already learned important lessons. Lessons about patience. Lessons about communication. Lessons about what truly matters when everything else falls apart. Your soulmate's past relationship might have taught them things they could never have learned any other way. Maybe they learned how painful silence can be when two people stop communicating honestly. Maybe they learned how fragile trust becomes when small lies begin to grow. Maybe they learned that love alone is not enough if two people are not willing to grow together. These lessons might now shape how they treat you. They might try harder to communicate openly with you because they know what happens when communication disappears. They might value honesty more deeply because they remember the damage caused by dishonesty in the past. They might appreciate stability and emotional safety because they once experienced what it feels like to lose it. In this way, the presence of their past does not weaken your relationship. It becomes part of the emotional foundation that makes your connection stronger. But there is still one more difficult truth that people rarely acknowledge. Sometimes when someone meets their soulmate after a complicated past relationship, they experience a quiet emotional comparison inside their mind. Not a comparison about who they love more, but a comparison about how different the two relationships feel. They might notice that their love for you feels calmer than the love they once felt before. It might feel less dramatic but more secure. Less chaotic but more genuine. And this difference can initially feel confusing. Because many people grow up believing that true love must feel overwhelming and intense all the time. They believe love must feel like constant emotional fireworks. But those fireworks are often the result of emotional instability rather than true compatibility. When two people truly fit into each other's lives, the relationship often feels surprisingly peaceful. There is less fear of losing each other. Less need to constantly prove love through dramatic gestures. Instead, there is quiet trust, quiet understanding, quiet emotional safety. And that kind of love can sometimes feel unfamiliar to someone who previously experienced a more turbulent relationship. Your soulmate might occasionally reflect on that contrast between their past and their present. But instead of making them miss the past, it often helps them understand the value of what they have with you. They begin to realize that real love is not about emotional chaos. It is about emotional stability. It is about waking up each day knowing that the person beside you truly understands who you are. And as time passes, the emotional weight of the past continues to fade. Memories that once carried intense feelings slowly become distant stories from another phase of life. The laughter they now share with you replaces the echoes of old conversations. The future they now imagine with you replaces the dreams that once existed before. Eventually something profound happens inside their heart. The person they once thought they would never forget becomes simply someone they once knew. Someone who was part of their journey but not part of their destiny. And the person standing beside them in the present, the one who stayed, the one who built something real with them, becomes the center of their emotional world. Because at the end of every complicated love story, what truly matters is not who someone loved first, or who they once thought they would spend their life with. What truly matters is who they continue choosing when life moves forward. And if your soulmate continues choosing you, continues growing with you, continues building new memories with you day after day, then their past does not compete with your love. It becomes simply another road they walked before finding the one path that finally felt like home. And when you finally reach the deepest layer of this truth, you begin to understand something that almost nobody explains when they talk about soulmates. The idea that your soulmate should arrive in your life with a completely untouched heart is not only unrealistic, it is also unfair to the journey that shaped them into the person you love today. Every person you meet carries invisible history inside them. Years of emotions, memories, lessons, mistakes, and growth that slowly formed the personality standing in front of you. Without those experiences, they would not be the same person. And that means even the relationships that once hurt them played a role in creating the version of them that you connected with. The truth is that the past does not always disappear when love moves forward, but its meaning changes over time. At first, memories of an ex might still carry emotional weight. They might appear suddenly in quiet moments or when something reminds them of another chapter of life. But as the relationship between you and your soulmate continues to grow, those memories slowly lose their importance. Not because they are erased, but because new memories begin to take up more space inside the heart. Human emotions naturally move toward what is alive in the present. The laughter you share together begins to replace old conversations in their mind. The struggles you overcome together become stronger emotional landmarks than anything they experienced before. The small daily moments that might seem ordinary to outsiders slowly build a connection that feels far deeper than any dramatic love story from the past. Love is not defined by how loudly it begins. It is defined by how consistently it grows. And when two people truly belong in each other's lives, their relationship becomes something that no past memory can compete with. Your soulmate may still remember their ex in the same way people remember many important moments from their life. But the emotional center of their world gradually shifts toward the person who continues walking beside them now. Toward you. This is something that takes time, patience, and emotional maturity to fully understand. Many people expect love to instantly erase every trace of the past. But real love does not work like a sudden reset button. It is more like a slow transformation. The past becomes quieter as the present becomes more meaningful. The memories that once felt powerful slowly turn into distant reflections that no longer carry the same emotional intensity. Eventually your soulmate may look back on their past relationship with a completely different perspective. Instead of feeling confusion or unfinished emotion, they may simply feel gratitude for the lessons it taught them. Gratitude for the experiences that helped them understand what kind of love truly matters. Because sometimes the relationships that do not last are the ones that teach people how to recognize the relationship that should last. They show people what love is not supposed to feel like. They reveal the patterns that lead to heartbreak so that those patterns are not repeated again. And when your soulmate reflects on those lessons, they may quietly realize that meeting you was not an accident. It was the moment their life finally aligned with everything they had learned along the way. In that realization, the past stops feeling like something unresolved. It becomes something completed. A chapter that served its purpose and then ended exactly when it needed to. And once a chapter truly feels complete, the mind no longer returns to it with the same emotional pull. It becomes simply part of the story that led to where they are now. Where they are now is with you. And that is where the true meaning of a soulmate connection reveals itself. A soulmate is not someone who arrives before anyone else. A soulmate is the person who remains when life has already tested your heart. The person who sees the full complexity of who you are and still chooses to stay. The person who builds something real with you not just through passion but through patience, understanding, and shared growth. This is why the idea of competing with your soulmate's past is ultimately unnecessary. You are not competing with memories. Memories cannot build a future. Memories cannot wake up beside someone every morning and choose to keep loving them. Only the person standing in the present can do that. And if your soulmate is standing beside you today, investing their time, their emotions, and their energy into the life you are building together, then the past no longer holds the same power it once did. Over time, your shared experiences begin to form a new emotional universe between the two of you. Inside that universe, the things that matter most are the moments you create together. The quiet support during difficult days. The shared excitement when life brings new opportunities. The feeling of safety that grows when two people truly understand each other's vulnerabilities. These experiences become the emotional anchors of your relationship. They create a bond that is stronger than nostalgia and deeper than old memories. Eventually there comes a moment when your soulmate realizes something very simple but very powerful. The person who once occupied their thoughts in the past is no longer the person who shapes their future. The person shaping their future is you. And when that realization settles into their heart, something shifts permanently. The past stops being a place they revisit emotionally. It becomes just a distant road they once walked before finding the place where they truly belong. That is the quiet truth about soulmates that very few people talk about. Soulmates are not people who arrive at the beginning of the story. They are the people who remain at the end of every chapter life has already written. They are the ones who stay after the confusion, after the heartbreak, after the lessons that shaped who we are. And when two people finally meet at that point in their journey, they are not meeting as blank pages. They are meeting as complete stories that finally fit together. So if your soulmate still remembers their ex sometimes, it does not mean your love is smaller. It simply means they are human. What matters infinitely more is where their heart continues to grow. If their heart grows toward you, if their future dreams include you, if their life continues to move forward with you beside them, then the past has already done its job. It helped shape the person who eventually found you. And in the end, that is the quiet miracle of real love. Not that two people meet without a past, but that after everything they have experienced, they still find each other and choose to stay.